Hi, and welcome to the weekly show this week. What a show we have for you. We're all about guest speakers, and I can't think of a better special guest than the one we have this week. Former BBC TV presenter, professional speaker and MC, and a trainer of speakers. So all that knowledge wrapped into one, it promises to be a very special show. But before we get there, let's talk about some announcements. The first one is SpotMe has launched its talent network. We did this for two reasons. The first one is we are growing really fast and we need talented people to help us. It's that simple. And the second one is we realize there's a lot of event professionals, a lot of talented event professionals out there looking for work, looking for freelance work. This is the opportunity for you to sign up. So check out spotme.com talent-network. You can even go to our website and you can see go to the website, go to spotme.com. Under resources, there is an actual menu item called Talent Network. So check it out. We're not accepting agencies right now. So if you're a freelancer or you're an individual looking for work, please apply. We have immediate openings for people in the UK with AV experience, and also people who have experience preparing and training speakers. So if you're not on there, please sign up. I can see Roy giving me the thumbs up. So sign up, check it out, it's available. Okay, now as we're all about speakers, I thought what I would do this week is show you what the speaker presentation looks like from an audience perspective. So here you can see I've logged in to a workspace, and there are two main areas that your attendees will engage with the speakers. They could go to like a faculty or a speaker page, and you could have very nice visuals. You can customize this page. You could have a nice banner at the top. You could have information about the event itself. But this is really a speaker profile page. And if I click on one of these, then I end up in the individual profile. And I can have a biography. You can see here, I can see the sessions that this person's speaking at. And I can see that I haven't turned my little banner notice off. So it's preventing you from seeing the rest of my screen. But you can see here, we've also got some documents that this person would like to show to the audience. Now, these documents can be anything from written. They can be links to social media profiles. They can be YouTube videos. They can be any kind of document you like, and you can associate it with the speaker. Okay, so that's one way that the person might engage. The other way would be the agenda. So here I'm looking at the agenda, and I can click on here, the journey towards deeper responses and improved outcomes. That sounds fascinating. So I'm going to click in here, and I can see that in this basic agenda page, I can also click on Terry's name, picture, and I get to the same page. So they are the two main ways that your audience will be engaging with your speakers virtually. Now, how do you do that? How do you actually build that? And what does it look like on the back end? So here we go. I've logged into Backstage, and I've gone to my content tab. I've gone to speakers. Now, there are two ways to actually upload speakers. The first one is manually, and the second one is Excel spreadsheet. So if I click on the manual, I'm going to do it manually this time, only because I want to show you the different fields and different options that you have. So we're going to add a speaker in here. We're going to call her Nancy Rojas. She is the head of oncology. And we're going to scroll down and write a bio. Here is Nancy's bio. So we've added a bio for her. Now, you know how I said you could link documents? Well, what I can do is I preloaded a document for Nancy, guiding the immune system to address unmet needs. So I will load that onto her profile. If I want to change the profile page, I can go in here and choose a different page. I can have a banner at the top. I can have a video at the top. I can do all kinds of things with the drag and drop page builder. I'm definitely going to add her a picture because I know that that's a lot better if I do that. And once I save that, I've added Nancy as a speaker. Now, for all intents and purposes, Nancy's added, but she's not linked to anything. So what I'm going to do is go into sessions. And I know that this is the session that Nancy's going to be speaking. So I go in here to this session. And what I'm going to do is scroll down on the right-hand side, and I'm going to associate Nancy, my new speaker, with this session. So I press Save Changes. And what we can do now is we should be able to go into the front end, and we should be able to see Nancy. So if I go back to the home page and I go to the agenda and I see we see Nancy's photo right here, guiding the immune system to address unmet needs. That's her session. I click in here and I obviously didn't refresh. So let me refresh. Go back in to the agenda. We see Nancy here. And there's Nancy's speaker page. I click on her, and here's her profile that we've just built in literally 2 seconds. Obviously, you would want to add a little bit more thought into the profile page, but that's how simple it is to add a speaker. Okay, now for the exciting part, the bit we've all been waiting for. How do you literally turn your 2-star speakers into 5-star engagers? And I know I hinted at this before, but I know I can't think of a better person to come and teach us about this than Roy Sheppard. So welcome, Roy, to the show.
Thank you, Tom. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, looking well. So we are live in New York, but we're also live in Radstock in the UK.
We are. I'm in the West Country, about 130 miles west of London, near the city of Bath. And I have been working from home and across the world for the last few months, like many, many people.
That's good to know, because I know that a lot of speakers find your services very invaluable. We'll get onto that in a second. So, as I hinted at the beginning of the show, you have a wealth of experience in presentation, professional TV presentation with the BBC. You are a professional speaker yourself, MC, moderator, and now you're training. Well, you've been training speakers for a long time. What makes a good virtual speaker, and how is that different than in person, perhaps?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's some big differences there. I think the first one is energy. It's about engagement. It's not about performance. I mean, I saw a picture recently of the Republican Congress or the convention, and somebody was doing a very animated, large theatrical performance to an empty convention center. And I think the biggest difference is when you're speaking at a large convention or a congress. I mean, I do a lot of medical congresses. Well, there'll be many, many thousands of people. You are talking to hundreds, if not thousands of people. Then you have streamed audiences as well. But when you're virtual in the way that we are, we might have hundreds or thousands of people in the audience, but actually you're only talking to one person. So you want to engage with one person, not hundreds. So it's like eyeball to eyeball. And it's a different mindset. But I actually genuinely think, and I've said this for years now, that it is about your energy level. You have to project more, and a lot of medical presentations are delivered by extremely bright people who actually are quite quiet. They're introverted researchers. So for TV, you have to turn it on. And I think in this new world of virtual, this is my personal view, that we don't have virtual events anymore. We actually have TV shows. They're online interactive TV shows. But because we have an industry of tens of thousands of event professionals, we still have to feel that we've got to talk about them as events. I think we do. I think if you're an event professional, you need to now become an online TV professional. The skills are very often the same. The technology is different, but the outcomes are the same, but you do it in a different way. That's a very long answer to a very short question.
Yeah, but I really like that, because it's indicative of a mind shift, right? It's this whole now getting into the framework of thinking like a TV presenter and having that energy, and I think it is different. Having been on stage, and I wouldn't consider myself a professional speaker, but it is different. It is different having this type of conversation than it is being on stage. It just is, and so I think it does require that mindset shift for sure.
There's also a timing element as well, that when you're live on stage, people talk about minutes or whatever being, overrunning, and you hear of people overrunning by 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. Television is time to the second.
Yes.
So you need to be so much more succinct than you've ever been. You need to know what your key messages are. You need to start on the minute, as you did. Well done. And then you finish on the minute. Yeah. And I think once you have that inner discipline and disciplining speakers, and that's a little bit like herding cats, it's very difficult to do that, but you have to do that. And as a facilitator and as a moderator, that is very often what I have to do. I have to play bad cop. But that focus is absolutely key to the whole success of an online event.
And linked to that, I know as we were discussing over the last couple of weeks, what makes a good speaker and how to prepare for them. Well, one thing you said really resonated with me, and that is the onus on the organizer to be very clear about the objectives. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that's important?
Okay, now this has been a bugbear of mine for decades. I mean, I literally have been around a long time. PCOs, or professional conference organizers, they will often spend more time worrying about how chicken is going to be served at a gala dinner rather than what is going to be happening on the stage or in the room, and providing speakers with the help that they need. Because a lot of industry or association events are not actually delivered by professional speakers. I mean, they're clinicians or they're business people or whatever. Yeah. So they need that. And I'll use an example, if I may. For the last 5 years, I've been the emcee and a reporter for the European Association of Nuclear Medicine Congress. Yeah. So I've done it for 5 years, and numbers have gone up from 5,000 to 7,000 over that same period. And I have been credited as having a part to play in that, because they wanted to bring in a professional to professionalize the whole thing. Yeah. And I'm sure they wouldn't mind me telling you this, but this year was supposed to be in Vienna. It's gone virtual. And I asked them, so what are you doing to support the speakers? And they said, well, like what? What do you mean? And I said, well, you need to give them guidance. You need to tell them how it's different to speaking live, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas if you allow them just to do their own thing, then your own organizational reputation is on the line. And I think this is absolutely key to everyone who's gone virtual. And just to make it a little bit more poignant, we're talking here not about 20 or 30 speakers. We are talking 1,200 speakers.
And that's incredible. That's just the scale and size of that is incredible.
So therefore, we developed an online video-based training course on how to deliver online. And it went live about a week ago. The event isn't until October, and already hundreds of those speakers are immersing themselves in how they do it. And then they're going to be pre-recording their presentations, because the logistics of managing 1,200 people say, well, where do I look? What button do I press? I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about. So I think pre-recording it is a really, really valuable thing. And you can also do live Q&A. So it's not all necessarily pre-recorded, because you want that vibrancy and immediacy that you get from a live Q&A and a live interview like this.
I like that. I like that a lot. So when you think about building that training course and your wealth of experience, and obviously your experience since everybody has pretty much gone virtual, what are some of the reasons that people fail? Like what are some of the reasons that people aren't successful speakers or engagers in the virtual world?
All right, there's two sides to this. There's the professional speaker and there's the amateur speaker, the professional who has to speak. I think professional speakers fail because a lot of keynote presentations are actually canned, they're scripted, and they have a nuance that is dependent on being in the room. And I had an example recently of somebody who told me about a keynote speaker who's amazing, got a great reputation, who did a virtual event, and she said it was embarrassing. He absolutely did not know what he was doing. So he was very skilled and very polished at something, but the virtual thing wasn't it. But I think when you're a clinician or whether you're a non-professional speaker, I think the biggest issue, and I've been saying this to speakers for years, is that it's actually about your audience. So if you think about the needs of your audience more than you think about your own personal needs or insecurities, then the focus of your energy goes on delivering value to your audience. It isn't about, oh my gosh, I feel really awkward. I don't know where to look. I don't know what to do, etc., etc. So that's the mindset shift. So focus on the audience and think like the audience. What do they want or need to know? And concentrate your messages on delivering that. Don't think about, the technology. I mean, we're using StreamYard now, which is a fantastic platform. I mean, I've used it before and I love it because it's very simple. It's very robust, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. And it's better in some ways than Zoom. I've been talking about Zoom for 5 years, and it's brilliant. But unfortunately, hundreds of millions of people let it down because they use it in a rather amateur way, unfortunately.
I think unfortunately, yes, it's been associated maybe with other non-exciting formats.
But it's a consumer product. This is a professional product. So StreamYard is professional, and Zoom, being used in a way that it possibly wasn't designed for. Don't get me wrong. If you work for Zoom, I love Zoom.
Well, and so I think I've spoken about this before on the weekly show. We use StreamYard behind the scenes, and we connect backstage native streaming to StreamYard, and it makes things a lot easier to produce, quite frankly. And I couldn't agree more. We absolutely love StreamYard. And if you're interested in how you do that, you can head to our YouTube channel, and our head of professional services has a range of videos on how to connect SpotMe to StreamYard. One thing that you've touched on then is this training course that you delivered. Take us through what are like the high level agenda points for that training course? What should people be really thinking about?
Okay, well, the first thing is, what is your key message? The biggest mistake a lot of inexperienced speakers make is they try and cram everything in. I've seen people have to go to do a 7-minute presentation, and they actually write 12 or 14 minutes and say, oh no, it's fine, I'll just speed up. Now, we're speaking to a predominantly English language audience. I mean, I work an enormous amount in Asia and the Middle East and in Europe, where English isn't the first language. So you can't speed up. So you need to be clear about what is your key message. So the old journalism thing is you tell them again, and then you tell them you told them. So the opposite of that is trying to cram everything in, believing wrongly that if you've said everything on the subject, you can't be accused of leaving anything out. But you're the one that has to decide what's the most relevant, why the audience needs to know it, and what they'll get from it. How are you going to ease pain? How are you going to improve the lives of people in your audience? It goes back to what I said earlier on. It really is about becoming obsessed with how you can help your audience. So that's the first part. So planning your presentation in that way. Any professional movie, TV show, theater production, or music concert always has highs and lows. Human attention does, a wave thing. So you'll have high attention at the beginning, hopefully high attention at the end, and then it will dip. So in a movie, there's always something that's going to happen to the people who are involved, put them through a bit of jeopardy, etc., just to pique interest. So because people do that, you need to deliberately position those within your presentation. And probably the simplest thing, and I bang on with medical scientists about this all the time, tell a story to make a point. Tell another story to make a point. Tell another story that brings all the points together. And if it's relevant, those points will stick with your audience. And most people think that if you tell, say, personal stories, that's somehow unprofessional. Well, it's not unprofessional if it's relevant, and the skill is to make it relevant. So if you've got your strong opening statement,
Yep.
you've got to the end of your presentation, you can re-emphasize your opening statement as your conclusion. And I've often shocked medical researchers by saying, why don't you give your conclusion at the very beginning? And they go, what? Yeah, you can give your conclusion at the very beginning and then say, and this is how we reach that conclusion. And at the end, you restate the conclusion. So it looks like a bookend. It's all holding it together. And then it makes it sound as though you actually thought about it beforehand. Whereas if you're leading to something all the time and your audience is distracted either internally or externally, they miss a link in the chain, they're stuffed, really. They can't hold on to it. So it's always good, if you can, say at the beginning what your conclusion is and then explain how you got to it. Nice.
We do have a few questions coming in, so I'm gonna ask you a few of those.
Okay.
The first one is from Josip. What was the best online talk you've seen in the past couple of months?
Apart from my own. And oh, wow. I mean, that's interesting. I actually, all joking aside, I did a session recently with a guy called Roger Fisk. Roger Fisk was the political strategist to Barack Obama. And I was here, he was in Washington, D.C., and my client was in Oman in the Middle East. And he was brilliant, actually, I have to say. He was so interesting. And I've just done another interview with somebody called Dr. Julia Shaw, who's a specialist in false memory and harassment at work. And she's written a book about evil. Absolutely fantastic. So I do think those were the best, not because I was involved, but they tend to be the only ones I ever see.
I know when we were talking, you were also asking about you were also speaking about the DNC and how they've done a tremendous job. So I know you've been watching some of the DNC live show. Okay, cool. There is another question come in. Is there a different prep cycle for professional speakers? Should you be thinking about that differently for truly professional speakers?
Yeah, professional speakers do organize presentations in a fundamentally different way. And I've seen professional presentation coaches recommend things that professional speakers never do. I think very high on the professional speakers agenda are the emotional hooks that you would have within a presentation. So going back to what I was saying about this, up and down thing, a professional actually deliberately places emotional connections during the course of the presentation.